In this section, we're going to be talking some about leadership. But then again, it seems like who's not talking about leadership? I did a quick little search on Amazon this morning on my trusty iPhone and just put in the word leadership and came up with 146,972 results. So there's no shortage of material about leadership. If you look at the first ones, you have people like John Maxwell, then 7 Habits by Stephen Covey, lots of the real kind of classic things in leadership. But then you go on to everybody has an opinion about leadership. So what we've tried to do in this module is to bring that down and some of the most key concepts. And of course, you'll want to continue your work looking at some of these other materials in the future. Anytime you go through the airport, you can find a book on leadership for sure at the bookstore. But we'll talk about some of those key sort of concepts that you need to know as a leader. You'll see in your readings that one of the statements is that the leader's real task is to find followers or to create followers. And we put sort of a little fun video there called the Dancing Man, Leadership Lessons from the Dancing Man. And that's sort of fun to look at just to see, to give this idea in kind of a visual way. And it's a sort of a fun video to take a look at. Another thing we put in was a short PowerPoint on flawed leadership styles. I was always amazed when I would use this in my classes because it talks about flawed leaders, and students love this section because it always talk about saying, oh, I have a boss just like that. My boss does that. They did that. And I think you'll see some probably things look familiar to you from past bosses or things you've heard about. But it's also important to look about, are there any of those things in you? Are there any of those things? And there are for all of us. But it's important to recognize those and to be able to work around those things. In the following module, when you do the assessment, you'll find out from the Hogan assessment some of the things they call derailers. And those derailers are things that lead us into those flawed leadership styles. And that's really important. It's important for us to know our strength. We're all about strength-based. But it's also important to know what are those things that can derail us and get us off track. One of the things I think is the most important about leadership, and I'm not sure we covered it much, it's mentioned, but it's how important symbolic acts are in leadership. When you're the leader of an organization or high up in the organization, you'll be amazed at how much value people put on your behaviors or your actions, even things you're not aware of. I can remember when I first took over one organization, I had great feedback that what I did was to open the door to my office. There was an office, you had to go through the receptionist to get to my office, but there was also a door open to the hall. And I would leave the door open to the hall, mostly because I didn't like being claustrophobic in there, wanted to see out in the hall. But people saw that as a great open door act, very symbolic. And that's just one small example, but think about as you look through these things, how you'll be perceived as a leader of your organization and how you can do things symbolically to advance the cause, to advance the mission of your organization. So get your cup of coffee. How do you like my new Yeti cup? There must have been some great leader in the Yeti organization to get me to pay $30 for a cup. But anyway, get your cup of coffee, enjoy, and learn something about leadership. Thanks.